Yemen's Houthi rebels are tonight fighting back against a series of strikes by the U.S. The rebel group claims to have launched 18 missiles and drones at the USS Harry Truman in the northern Red Sea. Two U.S. officials telling CNN there were no injuries or damage to the American aircraft carrier. This is after the U.S. launched a sustained military attack, taking out multiple Houthi leaders. That's according to a top Trump advisor. Joining us now, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander General Wesley Clark. Good to see you, as always. Thanks for being here with us. If these U.S. strikes were meant as a deterrent, how effective do you think it's been and will be?
Well, it doesn't sound like they were meant as a deterrent, actually. When President Trump says decisive, that's what he should be saying. Should be giving the military the instructions to take the threat out. Take it out. So the way you would do it is you tell a commander in the Fifth Fleet, who's in Central Command, what's it going to take to eliminate the threat? Come back and brief us. And then what are the costs and the risks? And then you give them the go-ahead. You don't go tit for tat like this, because tit for tat, they'll go forever on you. That's not what you want. It's not opening up the Red Sea. It's the way that we failed under the Biden administration leadership since November of 2023. Despite their talk about, we really handled the Houthis, they didn't handle the Houthis. So you've got to really go after this in a decisive way. It means striking, assessing, restriking, reassessing, restriking until you set up a tempo of operations with sufficient effect that they don't, quote, retaliate. They just cease operation.
And so if I'm understanding you correctly, it sounds like you're saying we should anticipate more that they will, if they're trying to take decisive action, that they will now reassess and potentially strike again, the U.S.
I hope so.
Yeah.
What has to be done on them. Jessica, they're not going to relent. They like what they're doing. They're getting support from Iran. They're getting some reinforcement covertly and from other like-minded groups in the region. They think of themselves as real heroes. And the more we strike and then wait, the smarter they get, the stronger they get, because they're going through a learning process. So they look at this, why do they strike here? Or why do the Americans do this? How can we keep them from doing this the next time? What's the right way to conceal it? What do they listen to? How do they get this information on us? So they're learning from us. We don't want that learning cycle. We want to stop this now.
And we heard from the Trump National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. He says these strikes were also a warning to Iran. I want to play a clip from him.
All options are always on the table with the president, but Iran needs to hear him loud and clear. It is completely unacceptable, and it will be stopped. The level of support that they've been providing the Houthis. President Trump is coming in with overwhelming force. We will hold not only the Houthis accountable, but we're going to hold Iran, their backers, accountable as well.
And you heard there, whilst not ruling out military options, what do you think, how do you expect that to play out? What would it take for the U.S. to take that step?
Well, I think the first thing is to interrupt the supply line that's coming out of Iran to the Houthis. We know they're shipping stuff in there. The missiles are being shipped. Maybe some of the drones are put together locally based on other stuff that's been moved in. But as far as we know, Yemen doesn't have a great electronics industry. It doesn't have a large avionics industry. It doesn't have the technology to do these things. This is imported hardware. They're smart. They've been at it for a while. But let's cut the supply link. We've seen and had public reports of these ships that are coming in. They've never been touched by the Biden administration. They never took action against them. Why not? So let's do that. That's the minimum that needs to be done. And then you got to go back up the supply chain and say, okay, where did this ship come from? In Iran. Was it launched from the Arabian Sea? Was it launched out of the Gulf? And if so, that's the next target. You work it right back up the supply chain until Iran gets the message. No more.
All right, General Wesley Clark, as always, thank you for that analysis. We appreciate it.
President Donald Trump is dismissing the idea of Houthi rebels in Yemen retaliating against the U.S. for recent strikes. President Trump is vowing to keep up those attacks, signaling the start of a major operation that could last for weeks. But the Houthi leadership says they're ready to escalate the situation.
Now we will meet escalation with escalation. We will respond to the American enemy in its raids, in its attacks with missile strikes, by targeting its aircraft carriers, its warships, its ships. If it continues its aggression, we will move to additional escalatory options.
CNN's Salma Abdelaziz joins us now live from London. Good morning to you, Salma. So what is the latest on US strikes on Yemeni Houthis and, of course, their retaliation?
Of course, Rosemary, and as you mentioned there, this is the beginning of what is a major operation by the United States. President Donald Trump had been looking at doing this for weeks, but the order, of course, only coming through this weekend once the U.S. had the intelligence that it needs to carry out these strikes. I want you to hear directly from the country's national security advisor about these strikes. Go ahead.
All options are always on the table with the president, but Iran needs to hear him loud and clear. It is completely unacceptable, and it will be stopped. The level of support that they've been providing the Houthis. President Trump is coming in with overwhelming force. We will hold not only the Houthis accountable, but we're going to hold Iran, their backers, accountable as well.
So if you're asking why is the U.S. carrying out airstrikes against Houthi rebels, there is your answer right there, Rosemary. This is an Iranian-backed group based in northern Yemen. It has, since 2023, attacked nearly 100 ships and vessels using drones and missiles. It's made that portion of the Red Sea, that very crucial shipping route, shipping lane, extremely dangerous. And that's why President Trump says that he is attacking the Houthis. He says his interest is to protect American interests. He says his interests are naval freedom on the high seas. He's also criticized President Biden because you have to remember this is a continuation in some ways of a policy. President Biden had also carried out strikes against the Houthis, but President Trump has described President Biden's responses as weak, indicating that we're looking at a much larger operation in scope and scale in these coming weeks. And we've already seen the results of that, the consequences of that, Rosemary. Dozens of people killed, including women and children, 100 wounded. That's according to health ministries on the ground in Yemen. And again, this is just the beginning. So the concern is that the humanitarian consequences in one of the poorest countries in the world could be absolutely major.
And Salma, I did want to ask you about that. I mean, you know, given the U.S. is vowing to keep up strikes on Houthi rebels and the Houthi leadership says it will continue to retaliate and escalate this situation and then the consequences, I mean, where is this going?
Well, you have to remember, of course, when you're talking about the Houthi rebels, you are talking about a group that, yes, has Iranian backing, which has provided them with more sophisticated drones, more sophisticated missiles, the ability to fire farther and deeper into places like Saudi Arabia to present a possible threat, a potential threat, of course, to Israel. Now, Houthi rebels say that they're carrying out these attacks in retaliation to Israel's war on Gaza, but President Trump simply does not accept this. So you're going to see that lethal force that he's promised absolutely strike in these targets in northern Yemen. And again, you're talking about an area that's been essentially ravaged by civil war for years now. There has been issues with starvation, hunger, the continuing violence on the ground. So for civilians who are absolutely caught in the crossfires of this conflict, this absolutely spells more disaster, Rosemary.
Thanks to Salma Abdelaziz bringing us that live report from London. Appreciate it.